just start by saying a few introductory things. My name is Jim McCarthy. I'm the CEO of Goldstar, and I'm the host of what we've been calling our Expert Chats. We've done this every week for the last few weeks, and we will continue to do these chats every week in order to connect our venue partners, our organizer partners around the country and world that are having the same issues with the crisis that the entire industry is having, to try to address issues with an expert on topics that really matter right now, things that are extremely practical and relevant right now. We've had some great experts, and today's no exception. So I'd like to introduce everybody to Jay Nash, who's with us. You can see him on the screen.
Hi, everyone.
Jay is a musician and part of a band called The Contenders. You guys have a new single, which I'll let you talk about a little bit if you like. You've been a musician for a long time, touring the U.S. and Europe. Solo, you've made records, you've been hosting Quarantunes, an all-ages virtual concert series that aims to connect people doing social distancing, and you have a pretty deep background in online performances of music, isn't that right?
I guess relatively speaking,
in a novel field, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't caught. I could have been caught even more flat-footed than I was. By this whole experience. But yeah, back in 2015, I started sort of dipping my toes in the world of live stream concerts with Concert Window, which is a platform that was really great, but is no longer.
So Concert Window was an innovative concept that actually the time for Concert Window would be now more than any, I suppose. But yes. I think Concert Window actually started in 2012. And what it allowed musicians to do was to do online concerts that were live to reach their reach their fans, and they could either make it free or they could make it for pay, or they could make it on a tipping based system. But it was a legitimate platform for artists and musicians, and you were one of the stalwarts of that platform.
I guess so. I didn't even realize that I did not honestly realize that I was. I thought it as being a really effective means to stay connected with my fan base when I was off of the road, and it provided like a sort of a nice little supplementary revenue stream, by doing semi-regular concerts. But it was the nice thing about Concert Window is that it simplified everything.
Right.
It was kind of plug and play. There was a pay window, a simple pay window. People could just push a button once the users were in. They could push a button to send you a tip or to buy a premium that was offered on the side. I forget what they called them exactly, incentives. But every time I did a show, I'd usually make my shows free, and I would usually, and I still do this, but I record the audio of the show as I play it, with nice studio microphones, studio preamps, and then after the concert, I would mix it and edit it and turn it into a live album. So the entry level incentive would be, say, $15, and you get a recording of the show. Then I all the way up to say like $500 or something like that for maybe a songwriting session. So I was selling these things on the side so I could make the concert free to anybody who wants to see it. But then, cool stuff that I thought people would actually want, signed albums, posters, stuff like that.
Sure. Oh, by the way, I wanted to mention before we go too much further that we had scheduled Jeremy Ween, who's the co-founder of Play Per View, to join us today, but he had a personal matter that he had to attend to. He apologizes to all of you, and we'll try to get him on another session of this. And so I think, though, and Jay and I were talking about this before, that whether you're talking about theater or you're talking about music or other forms, many of the issues cross those boundaries. And so we'll continue to talk about this. There could be some things that are theater specific that Jeremy might have spoken to that we can maybe return to with him at a different point. But I still think this will be really useful regardless of what genre you typically produce in. I think it'll be pretty wide open. So you've touched on, and we've already got questions coming in. You've touched on the idea of platform. So unfortunately, Concert Window is no more. But the very first question we got from John, and then Ariana added to that question, is what live streaming programs would you recommend? And then particularly if there are multiple musicians at the same time, do you have any specific recommendations there, or just things to look for in those programs?
If you're, I think that right now, our access to the largest possible audience is probably through Facebook. If you have apprehensions about only going to Facebook, there are ways to do what's called multi-streaming, to stream to multiple platforms simultaneously. There's a program or platform called Wirecast. I think it costs $600 outright, and then you could stream simultaneously to Facebook and YouTube, as an example.
Just those two platforms?
I believe so. There's Boxcast, which I think is $100 a month, that comes with a piece of hardware, and I think that sends out one stream from your, from where you're streaming from, and then they send it out to the other platforms. And what I've heard is that's really great for venues. Their specialty is very high quality audio, preserving a very high quality audio and video stream. But there's a lot of free solutions too. If you're streaming to Facebook, as an example, they allow RTMP streaming now. So you can use a free program called OBS to get your stream.
You say OBS, B as B Bravo, OBS?
Yes, OBS, yeah. I could talk about the ins and outs of the technical details of getting studio quality audio out to an audience on a streaming platform. That I could talk about that for 4 hours, and we still wouldn't have it fully understood. The bottom line is every person is different, so you got to be sort of realistic about what your capability is to handle a bunch of technical details while you're trying to do something that's creative and heartfelt and sincere and intelligent, because it can be a huge distraction. So you got to put the time in to understand it. And the system, the equipment that you actually have access to, your actual budget and your system, because you can put on a great high quality piece of content with a phone or an iPad. It's not going to be concert quality audio, but you can do something that is compelling. The built-in camera and microphone on an iPhone is shockingly good.
Actually, this is a really worthwhile issue to talk about, because of course we've seen this huge move to online events as the real world events have become impossible to do. And what Goldstar's done is we've actually facilitated, I think we now have several hundred online events available for people to either buy or just go see for free, depending on whether they're free or paid events. And people are interested. I mean, this is something that I actually feel like maybe I should share more widely with the Goldstar organizer audience, but many of you are here, so I'll tell you now. We are selling, and like I said, many of them are free. We're selling thousands of these a day. So there's an interest. There's an interest in them. And I think that as we all sort of stumble forward and learn what these online events are all about, what I was hearing in the first, let's say, couple of weeks, 3 weeks of the reaction to the crisis was something along the lines of, I think the important thing is just that I get something out there. And I think that we're past the phase where consumers are just going to accept that, because and you made a point earlier, it's actually important how much preparation goes in to what you put out there. It's not enough to simply have a placeholder.
Yeah. Well, that is not to say that you can't put out a spontaneous piece of content that's going to resonate, But I think if you're going to promote an event, if you're going to, you're going to put some effort into driving people to participate in that thing, in the year 2020, with all the brilliant minds out there connected to the internet, you better make sure that it's pretty good, that it's some close approximation of what you do, and that there aren't barriers like horrible audio or video getting between you and your audience, because that can get people to turn it off the feed and not return.
And you know, the point you made earlier before we started was that this is especially true if you have a fan base that you're serving, right?
Yeah.
If you serve up something that's not, and again, it's not about necessarily the polish, but it is about the preparation. If you serve up something that's kind of mediocre to your existing fan base, it could almost be a negative.
Yeah, yeah. I think that you know, there's the potential that you could blow your chance. You know, like people might think, oh yeah, I checked out that stream. I'll catch them when they
Yeah.
come to town again. You know,
Right.
but it's almost like this is a different art form. You know, this is like a different set of skills. It's like, oh, he's a great guitar player, he's a great singer, but he has no idea how to get that sound to an audience. You know, like
Right.
if you knew, pick your favorite band, if you knew that like when they came to play in your town that they were going to sound horrible, you'd stay home and listen to their records.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We've had a couple of questions come in about platform, and you may or may not have a sort of favorite answer to these.
Mhm.
Two questions were pretty related, and let me pull up the names of the question askers. Jessica and Lisa both asked related questions, so I'll kind of combine them into one. How do you charge for a live streaming event? And then what platform do you know of? Unfortunately, Concert Window no longer exists, but a platform that allows people to take tips kind of as the event goes along. Are you aware? Like, what's your general?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the most common common ways to accept tips would be Venmo and PayPal. That seems to be what everybody is doing right now. You know, you can either use a program like OBS or similar to have it right there on the screen, which I would probably advise against because I think it's a little bit tacky, you know, just like tip jar, but a lot of people do it. Or you know, have it kind of in the comments section of the feed, depending on what you know. You could do that on Facebook or YouTube. There is, if as far as you're selling a ticketed event, there I know there that's kind of what you guys would get into. I think there's Side Door Access is another platform where they're ticketing like Zoom concerts. But I think that right now, it seems to me that the best way, if you're looking to monetize it, and you're assuming you're not like Bruce Springsteen, you know, if it's not like automatically going to have like this.
I think he's listening, so you know.
Yeah, yeah. I think if you're trying to generate revenue, I think use like the platforms that chances are everybody is already using. You know, don't make people sign up for something in the middle of your show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think you got to make yourself as accessible as possible, and you know, and make it easy for people to throw bread in the jar.
You know, I wanted to mention a couple of the things that Jeremy and I were talking about, and that I think you would have talked about here, that go along with what you were saying, which is that in the Play Per View series, which is what he's been producing,
Mm-hmm.
he said one of the biggest things that he feels has made a difference for the success they've had with those is the intensity of the preparation and the intensity of the quality that goes into things like casting and rehearsals. So they're not merely thrown together sort of improv things. They're treated the way that he would treat you know, anything that he was producing in that realm. And in fact, what he said was you sort of have to redouble in a way the quality on the things that you really can control when it comes to those events to drive them home. So.
Yeah, because that brings an important point. You don't have the energy of an audience in the room, and chances are you're not going to for a while, as long as we're in this thing. So, you know, if you're an artist, say you're an artist that runs without a set list, normally, you know, if you do that kind of thing, chances are you feed off the energy in the room to figure out what is going to come next. But if there's no energy in a room, then that dead air of like trying to figure out what song you're going to play next is, you know, will eat you alive.
You know, Lisa actually just asked, do you think it would be weird to add in some applause at different points to kind of create that energy?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's, you know, you can do like online concerts using something like Zoom. You know, if you have like a pro account on Zoom, you could have up to 200 users, right? And that way you can see their faces. You can keep them all muted. And I've done a few of these concerts for for birthday parties, and I did one for the U.S. ski team, and I did one for an ad agency in Chicago, and it was really nice because I could see how people are kind of like grooving and interacting in a silent way that's not disruptive, and then they unmute and clap after the songs. On Facebook, you'll see Facebook's kind of fun because you see this feed coming down the side, and people can interact with each other without disrupting the concert, which is something that can't happen at an actual concert. If people are chatting with each other, that kind of stinks.
Right.
So here, people can interact with each other. They can, what record is this song from, or where could I find this? He scored a movie. They're having a conversation that's actually enriching to the experience that I'm trying to provide, and they're forging new friendships. And then then there's like a clap emoji that goes. So like that kind of erupts after thing. It takes a while to get used to it. It's a different environment, but during this time, I've actually been shocked at how much I've enjoyed it, how much I've looked forward to the streaming concerts, and how much it seems like people genuinely, need music and appreciate it in their lives.
So here's a slightly more technical, actually very technical question, but I think it's really worth talking about. Tara asks, do you have tips? And I think this is the larger issue of audio itself. Do you have tips for syncing somebody's speech to a separate piece of audio? So you don't have to have a soundtrack playing in the background, but add it in after. Tara, I'm not sure I understand the second part of the question, but there are issues with different tracks, right? With musicians that are playing at the same time or either in different places.
I don't know
to deal with that.
As far as like two musicians in two different places playing live.
Yeah.
I don't know that is possible yet. I've seen a few people try it, and there's a lag. There might be like a second lag. And so you might have like one guy is playing and singing the song, and another guy's kind of playing lead, but just doing it in a very loose and sympathetic way.
Yeah.
But the technology is not quite there yet.
That is a strict limitation at the moment, I would say.
It is a strict limit. No, the thing that I thought was really cool that I just figured out how to do a couple of days ago was bring FaceTime calls in to my live stream feed, so that I can, because the resolution, the video and audio resolution are both, better than Zoom, say, with FaceTime. And with OBS, and there's a lot of different versions of OBS. It stands for Open Broadcaster Software.
Okay.
But there's a bunch of different versions of it. It's open source, so people, can modify it and improve it continuously. But it has a lot of capability. You can bring in guests. You can feed audio and video from almost any source on your computer, whether it's your digital audio workstation or it's a file. If you have like a QuickTime file and you just want to sling that into your broadcast, you can do that. You can create different scenes, and it goes straight to the screen being set up where it's split between me and my guest, and the audio is coming in from FaceTime. And then if the closest thing I can get to real-time collaboration is pre-recorded collaboration. So right. I make an audio recording. I set up an iPhone in a nice angle and make a video while I'm recording the audio to something, and then I send it to my collaborator, and they play it. They just play along with it, and they film themselves playing along with it, and they send everything back to me. I make a mix of the audio, and then I bring the two video pieces into iMovie and make a split screen video that's kind of compelling to watch. You can actually.
This is basically what they did on the One World Together concert, I think.
Yeah.
It had to be. There's no way.
Yeah.
They didn't have any kind of magical solution to the simultaneous.
I don't think so. And if they did, it didn't really work that way. I mean, even like the Rolling Stones, was very cool what they did, but it was pretty loose.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think Charlie was doing anything.
Not actually playing the drums. Yeah, he was pretending to play some boxes. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I was just thinking about this from a theater angle or other performing arts on stage. Actually, this is an area where maybe it's a little easier from a theatrical production point of view because with a theatrical production, a half-second delay might not matter very much, or a second delay. So you actually have less of a limit there.
Yeah.
So I think that's something for the people in the theater side of the house, which are many in our audience. That's something to realize you have a little bit of an advantage in that area.
Yeah. But you really can, you can create a four-way Zoom call, and do a truly interactive thing and pump that into a free program like OBS and put it out there to Facebook and probably generate a decent audience. And yes, OBS does work with PCs. I just saw a question pop up.
Let's take a couple of other questions that have been sitting for a couple of minutes. We're coming close-ish to the end, but we'll probably go a few minutes over if you guys have a couple of extra questions. There's this issue of what you charge. And Lisa, and I think you and I probably both have an opinion on this, Jay, so I'll let you give yours first. Can you charge the same thing you would charge if the event was in person? And you have a lot of experience doing the virtual concerts and what that revenue model ends up being. So what's your take on that? It's not the same. You didn't make money the same way. You sort of made it on the back end, but how did that happen?
Well, I think you got to know your audience and what their expectations are. I think it's every content creator and audience is probably a little bit different. Yeah. For years, the band Phish has been selling live streams of their shows, of like their entire tour, and it's extraordinarily high quality. They do theirs through Livestream, which is a service that Vimeo provides. That's probably the most high-end solution to these kinds of things. The way they cover their concerts, like, first of all, the audio sounds like a record. It's mixed, it's perfectly mixed, and it's ready to be printed on vinyl. That's how you're hearing it. And second, they've got like 5 cameras on booms, very high-end cameras. And I think they sell, maybe it's $10 or $20. So it's not as much as a ticket. Yeah. But they can sell an infinite number of them on any given night. And I think that they do, when they're touring, I think they sell in the tens of thousands of.
That's amazing.
Live. It is amazing. I mean, they and
part of it is their fan base is ravenous, right? So as you say, it depends a little bit on where you're situated.
The live recordings of the shows that I'm playing, everything is free, and I'm encouraging people to take it, to download it, share these downloads with your friends, give it to everybody, because the tip jar is right there, but I'm not pushing the tip jar because I know that like anybody right now who has the means is going to probably give pretty generously. And I don't want, because it is such a financially uncertain time and stressful time for so many people, I don't want I'm not going to experience this piece of art because I just can't afford it. Because I think that that's how we get through a thing like this, is through our creativity and our connection over what we can actually make.
My addition to the question of what you can charge, and I've been selling tickets for a very long time, sold a lot of tickets to a lot of things for a long time, is that the right way to think about this is not to replicate the model of the live event. One of the things that Jay talked about with his concert window experience is that free to watch and then creating another set of revenue streams, whether it's tipping or premiums and things like that. But correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, but on a per capita basis, you probably made at least as much, if not more, from a concert window show as you would from a similar sized live event. I would assume that they're not that different, but it's
only grown since since quarantine has begun. It's hard. I can't predict the future.
Sure.
And I did a little bit of experimenting with concert window, between charging a minimal ticket price of $5 or $10 versus it being pay what you want. The numbers were kind of comparable. As soon as it becomes a regular thing, I think you have less leverage to charge a ticket price. Mm-hmm. If you're doing a weekly thing, because I think somewhere in people's minds subconsciously. They realize that there's no limit to the supply,
Right.
So, and I think the same thing applies. If you just I almost think universally, you could just make every live event a pay what you want event. And
some people are not liking that suggestion.
No, I know it's terrifying, but I'd be curious to try it out, to see what happens.
Yeah.
If Phish just said, "Hey, here's the show. Let's pay what you want."
Yeah.
And
theaters and other organizations do that sometimes. And it's designed to give people access and to kind of create a different model.
But usually,
I guess
really in a contained way. Usually pay what you want. But imagine if you were going to a show at Madison Square Garden that was pay what you want.
It could get a little crazy. From my point of view, I guess there's a lot of ways to monetize content now. But the thing that I would really advise not doing is just moving your old business model over into this. That would be a mistake. I think you might get back to similar economics, or maybe not, because obviously the live experience is better than the non-live experience. But you could have appealing economics, in my opinion. You just have to think about the pricing model in a different way. There was one other question that I want to cover. We're getting right on 1:30, so if you don't mind, Jay, we'll go a few minutes over. Is that all right with you?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. The question about if you're streaming on Facebook Live, do you give up all control or ability to do any of these monetization strategies, whether it be an admission ticket or a tip jar or anything else? Is that basically just a platform to use to open it up as wide as possible, or are there ways of dealing with that?
Oh, absolutely. Well, one, and I have no idea what's going to happen in the next, if at some point Facebook is going to pump the brakes on this, but you can very easily post however you would like to be paid, whatever your digital tip jar is. You can very easily post that in your header, or you could pin it in your comments. And you can also do free shows by creating a private group. Or I'm sorry, you can do private shows that are paid.
Private shows to a group that's just by invite only.
Yeah. Yeah. You could sell that invite on, Square or whatever platform. It's I'm doing a show. Here's tickets to the show. There's 50 available.
That's a great idea. And in fact, just so
I don't know, you could hypothetically, it's $40, and then when they get their confirmation email, their purchase confirmation, they get.
And this is a great example. I think I sense that partly you just thought of that on the spot right now, but this is a great example of modifying your pricing model to accommodate this circumstance, as opposed to, again, just moving your business model over. So that's a compelling thought. By the way, I want to mention, I know we've sent you millions of emails telling you this and whatever, but we are prepared to facilitate a lot of different kinds of models of online events on Gold Star, so we can support that. And Gold Star members have definitely been interested. So take full advantage of that. And if you have questions about how that might work, just reach out to our team, and they'll be able to take care of you. Let's see, is there anybody? I think we got everything. Jay, I think we may have answered everybody's questions.
Right. So, I apologize for suggesting Square, because you probably you could do. You could sell Facebook Live concert tickets. It'd probably be good to have some communication with Facebook, just so that they don't at some point you get roll that into your situation, and then they do something that makes it prohibitive all of a sudden once you're vested. But yeah, maybe that works.
Thank you, Jay. This has been super helpful. I know that that people have enjoyed this. And I want to thank everybody for joining us. Till then, take care of yourselves. I know this is a challenging time for our industry, and let's just keep each other supported and helped as much as we can through all of that. And Jay, thanks again. Fantastic. Loved it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.